Hey, my name's Cameron Haynes. I'm a senior here at University of North Georgia. My degree is International Affairs with a focus in Europe, and my favorite part about the program is study abroads.
Cameron, why is study abroad the favorite part of your degree?
With the study abroad, it gave me a chance to be exposed and experience new cultures and people, and I love experiencing all that, and it also gave me a passion with traveling.
Is study abroad a requirement for your degree?
It is a requirement, but for me it was a win-win situation because, like I mentioned, I really enjoy traveling, and so I got to knock out two birds with one stone.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about once you decided you had this interest for study abroad, how you got that process started?
But for me, it's kind of a unique situation because I only completed one semester, and so I was still a freshman. And so for the process, the first thing I went is talk to my advisor, Dr. Greathouse. With him, he gave me all the information I needed, the do's, the don'ts, the paperwork, and then who to see next, which was CG, the Center for Global Engagement. For them, they made things very easily, especially for my situation, because like I mentioned, I was still a freshman, so didn't really know much. They gave me the info on the scholarships, the paperwork with the process, and plenty of information. They're very helpful.
Does with study abroad, is it just one program you go through, or are there many programs?
For them, they have several, especially here at UNG. They have lots of focus and interest, especially for our program, International Affairs. For myself, I went to the program European Council. It's a 2-month trip to Saint Petersburg with a small little excursion to Moscow as well.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about once you were there in those 2 months, what you were doing while you were there? Were you doing any school? Were you, what kind of activities did they have you doing while you were there?
Well, for us, they crammed a lot of stuff within the 8 weeks that we are in Russia. For the most part, we were in St. Petersburg, and that's where we did the majority of our studying. So we did have courses. For myself, I took 3 courses, so 9 credit hours. With that, we would have classes in the morning all the way until afternoon, sometimes evening, depending on when the timing was. And then they would plan 1 or 2 excursions around the city or outside of the city.
Okay. While you were there, did you get to meet with any diplomats or state officials?
I was, and I was kind of amazed about it. We got to meet the mayor of St. Petersburg. That one was very interesting. I didn't think he would ever meet with any students from us, but so we got to talk about the economics, the politics of the city, but also of the country itself and then internationally as well.
Okay. Now, did the program that you were going through, did they set that meeting up with the mayor?
They did, and then I was really amazed on top of that because they also set up a meeting to go see the embassy in St. Petersburg, so we got to meet and talk to the ambassador about the day-to-day operations of the embassy, so that was pretty cool.
Okay. So from your interview with the mayor and then the embassy, what were some of the things about those day-to-day operations that you learned that you thought were just really interesting?
I thought it was very interesting for the mayor itself, the amount of power and control, not just power, but influence he has with his people directly. I thought that was very interesting to see diplomacy and democracy itself applied so easily. But for the embassy, that really piqued my interest. It kind of planted the seed for me wanting to work for the State Department, actually.
Oh, okay. While you were there, was there anything else special going on in that 2-month period?
It was very interesting. It was called the White Night. Essentially, with that, the sun would never set, and so it was constantly daylight out, and so they would have festivals down by the river, music, shows, drinks. It was just a really good time. It was a great icebreaker because at that time there was a bit of a language barrier between us and the Russian students, but the best interpreter was to have a good time, a little fun, calm down.
Okay. Now you mentioned like festivals going on during this event. Can you talk about like how maybe like some of the things you observe from like festivals there and festivals here, any differences, things like that?
Well, the Russian people, they definitely know how to have a good time. We got to see a lot of fire throwers. There's lots of food, lots of drinks, so we have that similarities in there.
Okay.
But they really like to have a lot of fun.
Okay. Okay. Now, how long is that celebration? Because you said it's like almost 24 hours of sunlight, right?
It would last for the better part of a month.
Okay.
Obviously, near the end of the month, it would start to get darker and darker and go back to normal schedule. But during that time, the beginning and at the end, they have the two biggest events in the city, to start it and to finish it. So.
Okay. How often does this event occur?
They would do it usually, it occurs every year, but
Okay.
for the events weekly, it would be Friday and Saturday. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. It's kind of similar to here, I guess,
It is,
when we
yeah,
get to celebrate
for
things.
sure.
So tell me a little bit about like why specifically you chose to go through this particular program and this location for study abroad.
For me, I always had an interest for the country of Russia. They have vast history. It was very interesting for me. I love history. It was one of the reasons why I picked international affairs, is because it relies heavily on the history of a set country or region, and so to have that knowledge definitely gave me a leg up for my degree.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about just how, like, this study abroad experience you had very early on in your college career, how that's impacted, like, the rest of your time in college and, like, your goals for the future?
For me, like I mentioned earlier, it kind of planted the seed for my passion to travel. Afterwards, I've gone on another study abroad and an internship abroad, as well as my experiences on my personal time traveling. Before my college career, like you mentioned, it gave me a leg up, because a lot of the times you can read as many books as you want about the material you're studying, but without the applicability and the in-world experience, you can't really see what you're learning. But with this, I was able to see and know firsthand.
Okay. What would you say, like, for someone who's interested in study abroad, what would you recommend as far as, like, study abroad and, like, them getting started with that?
To get started, do what I first did. Go to your advisor, because then they can always point you the right direction. But I recommend also going to CGE, because they definitely have a lot of information, and it doesn't hurt to read a few brochures and then just pick some choices.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
No problem.